Well, before I say hi to everybody, more importantly, I want to say, Lorraine Brown, happy book birthday.
Hi, everyone.
And as I said in a post on social media, auspicious day, also my birthday. So releasing a book on August 24th can't be anything but fabulous. Good luck.
And happy birthday.
Thank you. How are you feeling?
Yes, very excited. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been a lot of build up to this. So I can't believe it's actually happening today. But yeah, it's great. I'm trying to think of something to do that's kind of American themed today.
or as a Canadian in New York, as a Canadian themed, you do whatever works. But this is kind of the second book birthday, so this is the release of the Paris Connection in the North American market. Previously released in across the pond market. So
in February. So that was a much colder book birthday. That was freezing. It was bookshops were closed. We're in lockdown. So this is, this is great because at least I can go out. I can see it. Well, actually, I can't see it because I'm in London. But I can see other people with it.
Yeah. See, it's nothing like seeing your book out in the wild and all the rest of it. So I so enjoyed reading your book. I devoured it, one of my weekends. And, I noticed on the front, fresh, charming, wonderfully escapist. I love these descriptions, but this is more than a summer breezy, beach read. I gathered a few life lessons out of this. So tell me, what was the inspiration for writing this book?
Yeah, well, the sort of basic premise inspiration was a real story that happened to my brother. Him and his girlfriend went traveling around Eastern Europe, something called interrailing over here in Europe. You probably haven't heard of it, but you can basically pay a certain amount of money. You can go on any trains at any time. And they were whizzing around Eastern Europe, and then my brother's girlfriend got up to move seats because she was tired and she couldn't sleep, and the train separated in the night and they ended up in different countries. So this was about 15 years ago, and I remember thinking, I wasn't even writing then. I was trying to be an actor. I wasn't writing, and I was like, oh, that would make such a good beginning to a book or a film, and it was always in my mind. So when I started writing a book, I kind of remembered that, and I thought, okay, what if? I mean, they found each other again pretty quickly, and they're still together. It's all fine.
Your brother's not a cad. Okay, good.
Yeah, my brother's not a cad, and she didn't meet a charming Frenchman while she was separated from him. So that's probably a good thing. And but I just thought, that's a good idea, a good setup. And then character-wise, I think there is a lot of me in Hannah. That kind of idea of being in jobs that you don't feel fulfilled in, that you don't feel happy being in, not quite knowing what you're going to do about it, coming from a small town where perhaps, there weren't the opportunities or anything particularly inspirational around you to help when you were sort of a teenager. So there's bits of me in there. And at the same time, I was also doing a counselling course, like a psychotherapy course. So that was very inspirational because it really got me thinking about, why are we like this? Why do we have these same relationships over and over again? And is there anything we can do about it?
I'm pausing. I'm like, okay, I probably need you on that coaching and psychotherapy kind of stuff, relationship therapy stuff, but that for another conversation. Yeah. So
I'm not sure I helped me, but yeah.
So actor, you've now done this therapy and your degree and working with people that way. Did you always know you wanted to write a book?
Well, no, but I wish I had always thought that, because I think I kind of went in a bit of a wrong direction, a bit like Hannah with her train, I suppose, in a way, because when I was at school, I was quite shy, but what I loved doing was acting. And I thought that's what I wanted to be. And it took me a while to get around to doing it. I did other stuff first. I worked in fashion for a little while. I worked in TV for a little while as a researcher. And then I thought, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to drama school. And I did it. And I kind of, there's lots of things that kind of overlap, aren't there, with acting? Just breaking down the script and working out the character traits. But I just don't think I was really good enough. And it's very hard. And so it wasn't until I kind of really hit the sort of end of my tether and thought, what am I going to do with my life? I was working as a school secretary, basically photocopying things for teachers 8 hours a day and dealing with like stressy parents. And I just thought, I can't carry on with this. So I thought, what else could I do? And the only thing I could come up with is I want to write a book. And I just thought, that's ridiculous. That's really hard to, I'll give it a go. And yeah, that's how it started.
That's like, first of all, I'm like always in awe of fiction writers. Maybe it's in part growing up in Canada, reading Alice Munro and Margaret Atwood and Robertson Davies and thinking, how do they write these things?
Mm-hmm.
But and never imagining. So for me, imagining writing a book, it's always sort of goes to fiction. And how do you ever do that? So from someone saying that they want to write a book and write fiction, like I am just all hail to the queen to you to do that and write what I think is an absolutely stunning and wonderful debut novel. So thank you for that. So you've hinted at that this incident your brother got into with his girlfriend in the train. One of my fears is not being in the right carriage on a metro or something. I'm sorry, you can't get off here because, Metro North out of New York at a Grand Central Terminal, that can happen with some of the stations. Yeah. Why Paris for this setting?
Well, I didn't really think about anywhere else. I love Paris. I've been there a lot. And it felt to me like the kind of place where things can go wrong because they have gone wrong for me in the past. Like I've been on some romantic trips to Paris where I spent the whole time arguing. And I think at one point I was storming around Montmartre on my own. It was supposed to be a romantic weekend, crying. It was, things have always gone, they've never gone smoothly.
It's just that we have such hopes about Paris that it's going to be romantic, maybe unlike other cities or whatever else. I was wondering, it was like, all right, did you have a Paris story?
I know, I've got lots of Paris stories, but I think, the thing is you're having these arguments against these beautiful backdrops. It's almost like filmic. I could imagine it in a filmic way because just the building, just everything's starting over there, isn't it? The buildings and there's lots of wine, beautiful food. So, I kind of thought how interesting to have somebody kind of going through relationship turmoil, against all of that kind of beauty.
Oh, when I was reading, and then I think you'll take this in the way, and in case I get my words, because I'm not a fiction writer, get my words all jumbled up. There's times when I read books and I think people have written them as a script, and I'm like, can we write a book, please? But when I was reading The Paris Connection, I was like, could please someone make this a movie? From my lips to a director's ears, please.
Yes, please.
And when it happens, just, let me be like some old gray-haired lady in a Paris cafe, just to walk on roll. I want this as a movie. So, but the book doesn't read like a movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I would love it. I've just been doing a screenwriting for authors course. And trying to have a go at writing a script, but it's hard. Have you ever tried?
It's not something I've tried. And my friend Minda Hartz, author of The Memo, she's recently done a screenwriting course. So she did that over the past year. So I love it.
Very different, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. More fabulous women writing scripts. I'm all for. I am for all of that. How long did it take you to write?
Well, I started in 2016 and I kind of went through various stages with it. I lie. First of all, I was shortlisted for a competition. Then I did win a competition run by Penguin Random House, which is, they have a competition over here called WriteNow, which is to find writers from underrepresented communities. And I was one of 11 people chosen to be mentored by Penguin for a year, which was brilliant. And I signed my deal in 2019. So it took me 3 years to write, but then another, 18 months to work with my editor at Penguin and polish it up and get it out there.
Oh, wow. That's like commitment.
I know. And then I suddenly had to write book 2 because I had a 2-book deal in the UK. I had to write book 2 very quickly. It was a whole different experience. And it was during lockdown over here. And I was trying to homeschool my little boy, which I don't know whether you have any experience of that or know anyone that did, but it was awful. awful.
There's a reason. I like being a godmother and an aunt.
Yeah, you got it sorted there.
So what is your writing routine? Like, I mean, I want to say, what was your writing routine pre-COVID? What did you do through the pandemic to create a writing routine?
Yeah, so so before the pandemic, before I got my deal, I was working, as I said, at a school as a school secretary, and also training to be a counsellor, therapist in the evenings. So I had no time. So I used to write in my lunch hour. Every lunch hour, I'd rush up to there's a bookshop near the school, and it had like a little cafe, and I would just write there. And then I would try and sneakily type up my notes when I got back to my desk if I could. And I just did that every day for 2 years or something. And that's how I wrote the first book. And obviously I would, occasionally do some work at weekends, but it was mostly done in my lunch hour. So
well, I want to say, given that J.K. Rowling wrote in a cafe, let's give a shout out. What's the cafe in London that you used to go to?
It's called Waterstones Hampstead, Cafe W, I think.
There we go.
It's nice.
Thank you, bookshops with and cafes for being so welcoming to writers. So an hour, that was one of the things that got me through writer's block, was when, so fiction writing is so different. Like my books sold before I'd even written anything, but I had 4.5 months to deliver a manuscript.
Oh, wow, that's not long.
Good thing I was a lawyer in my past life. I just put my lawyer hat on and sort of, it was like the client, aka my editor, told me deal closes on this date. So I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but we will close on that date. I will deliver the document, kind of thing. But I remember sort of in October feeling a little bit like, ugh, like, oh my God, like, how am I going to get this done? And it was at a book event, Happier Hours, that author Aidan Donnelly Rowley used to host. And it was 2 debut novelists, both moms, I think both with full-time jobs. Not that raising children isn't a full-time job in and of itself, particularly during COVID. And that's what one of the women said. She used to get up. She didn't write on her lunch hour. She would get up at like 4 a.m. and like write for the hour and a half. And so during COVID with homeschooling, what did you do with your routine then? And how the heck did you get a second book written?
Yeah, I didn't have a routine. I just basically had to fit it in whenever I could. Late nights, if my little boy went out to play football with his dad, or just little snatches of moments like that. But what I did do, which helped me, was I planned it more thoroughly. And I guess I found that because I planned it so thoroughly and I knew exactly which chapters I was going to write and what had to happen in that chapter, and I did some character work, when I did actually have time to sit down, I knew what I was doing, and I could just, a bit like you with your lawyer hat, I could focus and just write for solid half an hour, whatever it would be.
So I was going to ask, do you have a copy handy?
Yes.
Is there any little snippet or bit you want to? Could you give us a little? Give someone who's watching this and it's August 24th and they're thinking, what could I do today? You could make my birthday by buying this book for yourself. That's what you could do, folks. So
yes, come on, folks.
Can you give them a little teaser? Can you give them a little? Is there a little
excerpt? You mean a little?
Can you read a little bit?
Yeah, I can read a little bit. I'll read the first page and a bit. So the story opens in Venice.
I've never been and I'm dying to go. So
it's lovely. Yeah, lovely. I sprinted up the steps at Venezia Santa Lucia station with minutes to spare before our train left without us. Battling to keep up with Cy, he was already several meters ahead and currently flinging himself through the glass doors of the station entrance. "Come on, Hannah," he yelled, disappearing out of sight. I groaned under my breath, zigzagging through a group of about 150 tourists who had decided that this was the perfect place to start fumbling about with maps. "Sorry," I said, pushing past them, my breath ragged and my heart pounding in my chest. Missing the train was not an option. It would absolutely not be worth the fallout if we did. I accelerated up the last few steps with beads of sweat trickling down my back, soaking through my flimsy cotton camisole and pooling at the waistband of my jeans, which I now bitterly regretted wearing, given the 30-degree heat. I thought I was being clever. It would be freezing on a train in the middle of the night, surely, and so I dressed accordingly, which wasn't ideal now, with the July sun beating down on my head. I followed Cy inside, struggling to keep pace, his blonde hair bobbing in and out of view. My suitcase, clearly not designed for high-speed manoeuvres, kept either tipping over onto its side or slamming painfully into my ankle. It was as though everything lovely about Venice had disappeared the second I ran through the doors of the station.
You can just picture it. You can picture the anxiety of Hannah, who is a, nearly 30-something. But there were some of those feelings, of not quite being right. Not in just what your life was doing, but somebody else making you feel inadequate.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So resonated with me.
Yeah, same. And that feeling of sort of being on eggshells, walking on eggshells. If she doesn't make this train, she's going to be blamed. If that kind of feeling, I think is quite familiar, isn't it, to a lot of us?
And that feeling judged, and that just I loved, and I love the Hannah character. There was one point in the dialogue when she lets Cy know it's okay. I don't want to give away the book, but when she has words with Cy, but and she kind of comes clean on what happens in Paris. And I remember thinking when I was reading that, like, don't go there. No, don't let the cat think that he's off the hook.
I know.
But I was thinking, my 30-year-old self would have done that.
Yeah. And actually, I put that in very late. That was a very, very last minute addition. And I guess that was how I would have liked to have been. I would not have come clean, even when I was 30. But that's how I would like to have been, just like honest. And this is how it is. And, this is tough.
But I was thinking, like, she had her own reasons outside of what happened in Paris. Even if she'd spent the day, perhaps on her own, maybe she would have come to the same conclusion. But I was sort of wanting her not to say anything, because then, as I said, Cy the cat would, he's off the hook, because he's like,
this is why it went wrong. Yes, that's a very good point. And I think that was.
I'm a tall, blonde, heterosexual male. I don't have to change.
Yeah. Oh God.
Okay, I said that anyway. So that's part, and I'm thank you for reading that part, and thanks for talking about this, because, as I said at the very beginning, and as I shared with you when we were emailing, this is more than the must-have tuck in your your beach bag end of summer read. There's so much kind of personal discovery and awakening, and done in just such an escapist, but not flighty, if that at all makes sense in what I'm saying. Yeah,
no, that sounds good. And I think you're right. Because of my sort of background in therapy, I wanted to explore some sort of deeper issues about why we are the way we are, and why Hannah might be the way she is, and sort of being in these relationships that she's kind of making do in, and thinking about her dad leaving her, and her relationship with her mum being difficult. And I wanted to bring all that stuff in, but as you say, in this particular genre, you don't want to be too heavy-handed with it. So I'm hoping that I got a sort of okay balance with some kind of fun, beautiful, romantic Paris, but also with this other stuff going on under the surface. Just absolutely wonderful. Are you going to give us any? I know we're talking about this book, but when can we expect your next one? Well, I don't know. Hopefully next year sometime. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, soon. I mean, yeah. No pressure. Maybe send your husband and your son out to play more footy, because you need I know. To. And guess what? Can you guess where this one is set? Given that I've written it in about 2.5 months during lockdown. Could it be set in London by any chance? I just thought, okay, where am I going to set this book? Because I can't even imagine myself anywhere else apart from my flat right now. So I just thought, I'm going to set it in London, because at least I know it very well. And at least it's vaguely, but it is on my doorstep. It's around me. So, and I love London. So why not? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a soft spot for London too, but yes. Absolutely love that. So you mentioned when we
started this conversation, or in the beginning, that you had applied for, didn't win, then won. What, as a new author and someone who sort of said, oh, okay, well, I'll write a book, where did you start sort of thinking about, right, like, how do I start doing this? What's available to support new authors? How did you go about that process of finding those things? And then what are some of the resources that you discovered that are out there for new authors?
It's a good question. Well, I actually wrote a novel before this one, which I think a lot of writers do, don't they? And I was doing a course, a writing course. When I decided that I was going to try my hand at writing, I thought, well, I'm going to have to do a course, just like a short course. And so I did it at the very trendy Central St Martin's, which is a kind of art school in London, and we did a creative writing semester. And then I started writing this novel, and I just sort of winged it, I suppose. I just sort of wrote what I wanted to write. I thought it was good. And then I sent it out to like 30, 40 agents, and they were like, no. And I did get some feedback, and that, I got some feedback along the lines of, well, your writing's good. Occasionally I got that, but this story won't sell. This is, it's nothing, it's not strong enough. And so then when I came to write my second novel, I really thought hard about, what do they mean by it's not going to sell? I hadn't even really thought about it selling. And so I really thought about, okay, what genre am I writing in? So this would be my advice. Whilst I think you should write what you want to write, I also think if you're serious about being a published author, certainly traditionally published, you do need to think about genre. Is it going to be a rom-com? Is it a psychological thriller? Is it literary? What is it? And then within that, certainly with commercial fiction, what is the hook? They're all very big on the hook. So the hook in my story is a couple get separated on a night train and end up in different European cities. And straight away, I noticed as soon as I started sending it out to agents, they were all like, this is a great hook. So, I was like a step ahead of where I've been before. And they were like, no, this is terrible.
You've tapped into, your therapist self has tapped into this underlying fear we all have of not falling asleep on transport and ending up in the wrong place.
Yes, exactly. I know. I wouldn't mind if it was Paris, but it's never Paris, is it? It's always somewhere hideous.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and then my next bit of advice would be, I guess, get it read by people. Because I think when you write, I don't know if you found this, when you write what you think is okay, but then you get to a certain point when you can't really see it at a distance anymore, and you don't know if it's okay or not. So I think you've got to send it to someone. And obviously, some people's resources are limited in terms of finances. Mine certainly were at the time. So, there's lots of expensive places you can send it to whereby they'll read your manuscript and give you feedback, but I could never afford that. It was hundreds of pounds. So what I did was start entering competitions. And that really, A, it kind of motivated you to stick to a deadline. B, it's quite exciting, once results started coming in. And then I think, occasionally you get some feedback from judges, and then you can use that to do another redraft. And books are great, I think. So I've got this, I use this a lot, Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And then there's also the original Save the Cat, which is for screenwriters. So I think thinking about story structure is something. Yeah. So rather than sort of writing a wishy-washy novel like my first novel, if you follow something like this, whatever appeals to you, I think that can really help.
I have never heard of that one. One of the books I'm always so fond of and often recommend, Stephen King's book on writing.
Oh, yeah.
Authors writing on their writing process in terms of what you need to think about, and realizing, oh, good, successful writers have all sorts of stress and psychoses about and feel inadequate about their books. Oh, good, I'm not alone.
Yeah,
but writing competitions are such a great idea. And submitting, I'm thinking I picked up, it was a Josie Books is a wonderful used bookstore here an antique bookstore and limited edition and first edition bookstore here in New York. And somehow I got a hand on it was like the publisher's proof copy of Elizabeth Strout's first book.
Oh, wow.
There was this letter, back in the day when they did these things, this letter from the editor as they sent out, the manuscript, the unpublished proof to people. And in it, it shared this wonderful story that she used to submit stories to the New Yorker. And this editor was at the New Yorker at the time, and he would send feedback and sort of say, this should be a full book. This should be a full book. This should be a full book. And glorious when you find people who are so giving that they will give that feedback.
Amazing.
And then he became the editor at Penguin Random House. And when that landed on his lap, he was like, I'll take that one. Absolutely. You also made that other comment that you had written previously and it wasn't published. And yeah, that, I'm talking about perseverance and grit, to saying, okay, they didn't want that one.
I know. I think I thought that I'd be all right with a kind of book rejection because I'd had so much rejection as an actor. I thought, I can do it. I know how I'm going to feel. It's going to be a bit crap. I can get over it. It's fine. But it was equally as bad, if not worse, because actually you put a year's work into it and then you get rejected, as opposed to doing an audition. But yeah, I just kept going and kept thinking about, what do I want to achieve? Like, my life needs to be different here, so it's going to be tough. But I mean, that kind of fits in with your. Can I show your book?
I was just saying what you were just saying sounds very Hannah. Thank you.
Yeah, it does sound very Hannah. I was thinking it sounds very Kelly in terms of just working out what it is you want to achieve. Do you want to write just for fun, or if you're serious about being published, that's a different thing. And also, like you're saying here, having a community around you. So I now have a community of authors that I've only ever met. I don't know any of them in person because this only started just before lockdown. We started a group called the Debut 20s, and we meet sometimes on Zoom, and then we're starting now to have real life book launches. I'm going to my first one in September. And it's just so nice because you can moan about the industry, you can stress about things, you can ask for advice, and that's really lovely. And that has made such a difference to the way I feel about myself and my writing, knowing other people are feeling the same.
Yeah. You're not alone in sort of the crazy talk in your head. And when you said you wrote a book and then it wasn't published, I also think of another Penguin Random House author, part of our community and that amazing community of authors that Penguin Random House brings together, Helen Ellis, who now has 3 New York Times bestsellers. But she wrote a debut novel, and then 3 or 4 books were rejected. And she gave up writing for like 15 years.
Oh my gosh. So her debut novel came out, and then her next books weren't sort of taken up.
Publishers were like, And it was actually her Twitter account, What I Do All Day, and her embracing, well, I'm a housewife. But she's a housewife with no children and 2 cats and a lovely husband. What do you do all day? Was the question.
Like a great way to be a housewife.
So when people said, what do you do all day? She started this, and Helen has got a wicked sense of humor. But she had to go through this very long period of time, get back to sort of that perseverance and grit. Let's also talk your, like, this marketing acumen, the idea of writing for a genre. I think that's I want to highlight that. I think that's a really important point that people don't realize with authors, whether it's fiction like you are. We keep holding up the cover at this book, or nonfiction, that you're the chief writer, editor, and marketer of your book.
Yeah, completely. And there was a moment when I almost gave up on this book because after working with Penguin Random House for a year, they were saying to me, they were saying to all of us, don't worry, agents are going to be biting their hands off to sign you. They're going to be so excited. You've got Penguin behind you. And then I started sending out to agents, and I was getting the same results, like either not hearing anything or hearing a no thank you, no explanation. So that was really demoralizing. And then I had a meeting with someone that just made all the difference. And she said to me, it's not fully in a genre. If you want it to be a romantic comedy, you need to do something with it, like make it more romantic, make it warmer, make it funnier. And she told me to go and read Beth O'Leary's The Flat Share, which had just come out at the time. And so I went to read that, and I just thought, I see exactly what she means. Because I read Beth's book, then I read mine again. I was like, mine is flatter, it's colder, it's more serious, it's not light. And I thought, okay, I can either go down a very different route and try and make it more literary, which I don't think I could do. I wish I could, but, or I can, ramp up the romance. So that's what I did. And so, I really had to think carefully about it. And it's not something that occurred to me before that moment, really.
And so it's when you meet, the right person, the right editor. Sometimes I think of us as authors like real estate. You just have to meet like the one right, literary agent, get the right publisher. Like you just need one. You don't need 50. You just need one. So who believes in us and whatever. Wow. Massive congratulations. I can't wait to meet you. I know it's in real life because it's in real life, but digital that we're talking right now. But when we are physically in the same room,
yes,
I need my copy. I want to say signed.
Lovely.
Since we share, I often pass on books, but I'm like, not this one. This is mine. I share a birthday with this book. So, available at all major retailers, and as a new author, I still consider myself a new author. Ways you help new authors, folks. You buy their books and you rate and review their books. So head over to Goodreads, head over to wherever you bought it, head over to Amazon, wherever you buy your book. Rate and review the book when you've read it, because it is so important for new authors. And I would be remiss also mentioning, is your book giveaway still on, the one you launched on Instagram?
Yes, just about, still on.
All right, good.
Being given away. If you fancy a signed copy, and I've got this cute Paris keyring to go with it.
Oh, it's adorable. So, and what's your Instagram account so people know where to find it?
It's at Lorraine Brown Author.
Fantastic. Well, massive congratulations. Thank you for this conversation. Wish I was there celebrating with you physically in the same room, but
I know, soon, one day.
We'll save that for another day. And thanks to everyone for joining me and Lorraine for today's virtual water cooler. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks.